There is a particular silence in ancient lands, a silence you can feel north of Stockholm, Sweden, in the region of Vallentuna. For our American audience, we need to paint this picture. Vallentuna is not a metropolis. It's a place where history breathes. Inhabited since the Stone Age, its soil holds the memory of glaciers and the first civilizations that rose there. In 1974, it was a municipality of contrasts. Old rural houses and open fields met small urban centers. With about 33,000 inhabitants, it was a community where life followed a predictable rhythm, anchored in nature and tranquility. It was a place where nothing out of the ordinary ever happened, until, in 1974, that tranquility was shattered. What descended upon Vallentuna was not a fleeting sighting, it was a presence. A 43-day occupation that generated dozens of official reports, mobilized the army, and left physical marks not just on the ground, but on the bodies and minds of those who witnessed it. Vallentuna and its rural areas were the epicenter of an activity so intense it was officially called the Vallentuna Invasion. Tonight, we aren't just telling a story of lights in the sky. We're telling the story of a family cornered by the impossible, and of a man who was taken beyond the edge of reality. This is the anatomy of the Vallentuna Invasion. Our journey begins on Saturday, March 23, 1974. Ellevi Anderson, who had turned 36 just days earlier, was at home. A small celebration with friends had been canceled due to an unforeseen issue. The house was quiet. Around 7:30 p.m., feeling disappointed, she decided to do something mundane. Call her elderly parents, Vebla and Hildor. They lived less than 6 miles away in Orkesta, an even more rural area. She picked up the phone and heard only emptiness. An analog, dead silence. The phone wouldn't even ring. Back then, this was an alarm. Worried that something might have happened to her parents, Ellevi didn't think twice. She bundled up her 3 children, put them in the car, and set off into the darkness of Lindholmen Road. As she drove, a light appeared in the sky. It wasn't a plane. It was bright, circular, and seemed to move with her. It was an unsolicited eye in the darkness, an escort she hadn't asked for. The light followed her for a stretch of the road, until, near a sports field, it did the impossible. The immense globe of light contracted, shrinking in on itself until it was the size and shape of an orange. And then, in a split second, it shot upward and vanished. Shaken, Ellevi tried to rationalize it. A strange helicopter? An atmospheric phenomenon? She forced herself to focus on the mission, get to her parents. At 8:10 p.m., she parked at her parents' house. She found Svea and Hildor on the porch, visibly disturbed. The mystery deepened. Her father confirmed. The phone was dead. And what's more, the TV, the family's nightly ritual, was also dead. Not a single channel would tune in. The isolation was total. At that exact moment, as Ellevi began to describe the bizarre light that had followed her on the road, her parents cut her off. They pointed into the darkness toward an old quarry nearby. A blinding light was hovering over the trees. As they watched, paralyzed, a second, smaller light emerged and began to dance around the larger one in an erratic, zigzagging pattern. Then, the main light began to move, It came toward them. It was no longer a light, it was a structure, a silent, oval-shaped craft descending over the terrain. The family watched, frozen, as 3 beams emerged from its underside and the object landed firmly on the ground. White and yellow lights blinked irregularly on its surface. Terror broke the silence. Inside the house, the children threw themselves on the floor, screaming. They were trapped. An unknown machine of impossible origin was landed just feet from their house. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the phenomenon reversed. The mountain of metal that stood in the field began to retract. Before the family's eyes, it collapsed in on itself, returning to that compact, orange-sized sphere. It rose, hovered, and vanished into the night. Still in shock, the family needed to get out of there. Elevie decided to take them to her brother Hilding's house, 5 minutes away. Everyone got back in the car. The short trip was made in absolute silence, all eyes scanning the sky. When they arrived, Hilding's wife ran out to meet them, pale. Before Elevie could speak, her sister-in-law asked about the strange light she had just seen following their car down the dark road. The validation was terrifying. The fear in Elevie, however, began to mix with an intense curiosity. She needed to understand what was happening. She decided to return to her own house, and her brother, Hilding, insisted on following her in his own car to ensure her safety. The dark road did not disappoint. Hilding, driving behind his sister, saw it first. A smaller, hat-shaped object emerged and flew low, passing between the 2 cars. Immediately, the larger oval craft reappeared, about 1,300 feet ahead, floating 33 feet off the ground. Near it, a small orange orb pulsed. It was a game, an intelligent, precise, and absolutely terrifying game. The convoy of objects began to follow Elevie's car. When she accelerated, they accelerated. When she braked, they stopped in midair. Elevie's curiosity overcame her fear. She stopped the car on the side of the road. Hilding stopped behind her. She got out of the vehicle to get a better look. The oval object approached and hovered directly over them. A solid white light poured from the craft, flooding the car and the road. It wasn't a light, it was a purification. The intensity was so great, it sucked the color out of everything. Elevie described it as if they had become extremely white. The children screamed inside the car. Her elderly parents covered their eyes, afraid the light would blind them. That's when Elevie's eldest daughter, 17, in a state of shock, whispered something that chilled her mother's blood. She said she was hearing a voice no one else could hear, asking her to get out of the car. After an eternity suspended in that oppressive light, the objects moved. They passed over a nearby barn, hovered for an instant, and finally ascended and disappeared. The entire ordeal from the failed phone call lasted about 50 minutes.
The Anderson family's experience was the epicenter, but they were not alone. That same night, in another part of Vallentuna, Reality was being undone for another man. Gösta H, a local school janitor, was walking home after an event at the parish. It was a nearly 2-mile walk he made routinely. He walked about 1,600 feet, passing a field known for its 10th century rune stones, ancient stones engraved with the Viking past. Ahead, on the road, a light was stationary. Gösta stopped. The orb of light moved toward him, shining intensely. Suddenly, a second object appeared to his left, rushing at high speed straight for him. His survival instinct screamed. Gösta threw himself to the side toward a ditch on the roadside to protect himself from the impact. He dove for the ditch, and the world disappeared. The next instant in Gösta H's memory was standing at the front door of his own house. He was dazed, confused, out of breath. How had he gotten there? He rang the doorbell desperately until his sleepy wife opened the door. Her sleepiness vanished instantly. Her husband was covered in bruises. He had a wound on his head, and, most strangely, a distinct burn on the right side of his face. He had no memories, only 2 points, the road and the door. The 1.5-mile journey between them was an abyss of lost time. Gösta was taken to the hospital. The amnesia, mental confusion, and bizarre injuries led the chief physician, Thor Arvidsson, to try hypnosis to unlock the black box of that night. As soon as Gösta entered a trance, the terror surfaced. He hadn't fallen into the ditch. He relived the moment he threw himself, and before hitting the ground, he felt himself floating, being pulled into the air, helpless. The next scene, he was lying on a cold table. Around him, 4 figures. He described them as semi-transparent, with an appearance vaguely reminiscent of Native Americans, but with a physiognomy that did not belong to this world. They had no visible ears or nose, and wore hoods. At this point, the real Gösta in the doctor's chair began to scream and struggle, reliving the dread, begging not to be taken. When Arvidsson calmed him, the account continued. The beings examined him. A metallic object was pressed against his forehead, causing a sharp burning pain, exactly where the burn had appeared. They gave him, he said, a mission, something he was supposed to do in the year 2000. He never gave details about what it was. But the most profound consequence of that night was physical. Gösta H was not a healthy man. Due to his childhood fall, he was blind in one eye and had severely compromised vision in the other, requiring thick glasses. After the abduction, inexplicably, his vision was restored. He no longer needed glasses. Gösta also changed. He became, according to reports, psychically sensitive, able to predict earthquakes around the world with unsettling accuracy.
The next day, Ellevi Anderson was met with skepticism when she called the police and the National Defense Research Institute, FOA.
The officer in charge, Taj Eriksson, suggested she had seen a weather balloon. But within days, the authorities' tone changed. The police called Elavy back, apologizing. Her case was not unique. The switchboard had been flooded. Between March 23rd and 24th, 76 reports were filed by 31 different witnesses, all describing erratic lights, orbs, and oval-shaped craft. The investigation became serious. The Home Guard commander, Hard Bornholm, went to Elavy's parents' house, and in the old quarry, he found the proof. Triangular marks, just over an inch deep, pressed into the ground exactly where the family saw the object land. And above them, the tops of trees 26 to 33 feet high were snapped, the branches torn off with violence and thrown to the ground. The FOA returned to the site. This time, they came in full protective gear, treating the area like a contamination zone, collecting samples of soil and burned grass from within the landing marks. Shortly after, Elavy fell ill. Severe headaches, vomiting, and body aches. Blood tests at the hospital revealed an alarmingly high white blood cell count. The doctor's diagnosis, symptoms consistent with radiation exposure. The object had left its signature on her. The sightings didn't stop. For 43 days, the skies of Vallentuna belonged to them. The situation escalated to the point that the Swedish army was mobilized. Commander Stig Sergran ordered Operation S, positioning observation teams in the area for weeks, hoping to study the phenomenon. Taj Eriksson, the skeptic, was forced to confront reality. After interviewing all 31 witnesses, neither he nor Hard Bornholm could find a conventional explanation. Skeptics suggested stars or planes from the Arlanda airport, about 18 miles away. But planes don't hover 33 feet off the ground. They don't play games with cars on the road. Planes don't leave triangular landing marks, they don't break trees, and they don't cause burns or radiation sickness. The official report from Operation S was a statement of humility. They concluded that a real physical object of unknown origin had indeed operated in Vallentuna, and that no logical explanation was possible. It was later discovered that a precursor event had occurred 3 months earlier, on New Year's Eve. 5 people saw a huge, cigar-shaped object with illuminated windows floating over the forest. The Vallentuna case has now passed its 50th anniversary. The witnesses, many now deceased, maintained their testimonies unchanged until the end.
What exactly happened in Sweden in 1974? It wasn't an isolated incident, it was a sustained operation, a demonstration of technology that could disable power grids, manipulate matter by shrinking and disappearing, and physically interact with the environment and with humans. It was an event that left Gösta H cured of his blindness, but burdened with a mysterious mission. An event that left Elavy Anderson sick with radiation, but with the unshakable certainty of what she saw. What did this intelligence want in Vallentuna?
Why choose this quiet, ancient region? Was it a study, a warning, or the prelude to something more? And what was supposed to happen in the year 2000, according to the prophecy given to Gösta? The case remains open, like a wound in the Nordic sky. What does your intuition tell you about the night of March 23rd? If you were in Elevi's place, would you have stopped the car to get a closer look? Every like on this video is a beacon to the algorithm, showing that the exploration of deep mysteries like this must continue. It is vital support that drives us to go deeper in the next case. Please check that your subscription to Alien Cases is active. For us to continue this work, your like and subscription are fundamental. And, of course, leave your comment. Did you already know about the Vallentuna Invasion? What detail of this story caught your attention the most? Your perspective is essential to this community. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until the next case, Cosmic Traveler.